Welcome to Love from Lisha for an extra dose of love in your day. Click subscribe and the bell to be notified when new videos go live weekly. Today we'll be talking about making assumptions. As a coach, I talk to many people who have conversations with me where a lot of that content is based on assumptions. They're holding themselves back from doing something. They're believing that something that they do will turn out this way or that way. They are limiting themselves based on how they perceive the outcome to be. All of that is based on assumptions. When you look at how much truth there is in those situations, in those stories that people are telling themselves, there's actually very little truth. I often ask, what do you know about that to be true? And then all of a sudden, it kind of disrupts that line of thinking that's based on assumptions. And it's just based on beliefs. It's based on beliefs from one's own insecurities, from that inner critic, from past experiences, from other people's experiences. And because of that, then people hold themselves back from doing things that could bring them so much joy and fulfillment and satisfaction. And there can also be an element of self-fulfilling prophecy in that, where someone says, oh, you know what, going for that job is ridiculous, I have no chance. And so then they aren't putting themselves 100% towards going for that job, doing all that they can to get it because they assume that they're not going to get it. And then when they don't, it confirms the truth that they've told themselves, convinced themselves in that they're not going to get it. And then they say, see, I was right. I knew I wasn't going to get it. And then that furthers that power of the assumptions, because then people feel like, well, I already know what to expect. See, here are these cases. They start looking for evidence that supports these assumptions and makes it easy to feel confident about them and to either not take action or not fully put themselves into action because they're buying into those assumptions. How would it be to not get hijacked by assumptions, to instead notice them when they're coming up, ask yourself, what is true about this? And then parse out the truth from the storytelling and look at that as a way to create a different ending, the ending that you want. Let's say that someone asked you to join a committee, and every committee that you've been on has been boring, not productive, they've been argumentative, all of these negative experiences. The next time you're asked to join that committee, you might say, no thank you, without even any explanation. However, what if you were to get curious and to say, these were my past experiences. What if that doesn't have to be my future experience? What if that future experience could be different? And as soon as you start doing that, you open yourself up to possibilities, to creativity, to resourcefulness, saying, this is what I am assuming will happen or what it will be like. What can I do? What do I have control over to make that look like something else, to make that look different than what I'm assuming it to be? When you do so, then you open yourself up to so much more, and you give yourself the chance to really see things through and to commit yourself to experiences because you are willing to take a chance and to look at it in a different way, and to even throw down that challenge and say something like, you know what, every time I talk to this person, they're confrontational. I'm sure if I talk to them about this subject, they're going to be confrontational. So the challenge can be, how can I have my next conversation with this person be pleasant, positive, productive? And that's where the magic is. That's where all of a sudden you create a shift in these patterns and you are able to falsify that assumption, to quiet it. And in doing that successfully, you're able to look at future assumptions differently as well. In clients that I've worked with, there have been some assumptions about conversations. And if they say this or they do this, this is how this person will respond. There are concerns, there are doubts, there are hesitations because there are these assumptions. Every single time that a client has then committed to going forward with that conversation, looking at what they want to come out of it, how they're going to show up in order for that to happen, I have 100% heard from them that went better than expected. I don't know why I put it off for so long. I don't know why I was so resistant to having that conversation. I wish I had done it sooner. And then they're motivated to have additional conversations with others that they have similar experiences or similar questioning around. And again, it turns out to be so positive. Most of the time, what we come up in our heads with as that worst case scenario, those assumptions are completely wrong. There's a survival, a protective element there, and we are trying to protect ourselves from these assumptions that are often way worse than they really end up being. And let's say that our assumption is proven right. We can look at that as a challenge. How can I make this different next time? What gifts or opportunities are there? Or how can I just let it be and say, okay, so that's how it was. You have options, and you have so many possibilities that you could open yourself up to even more if you just notice when there are assumptions and let that fall by the wayside. Those assumptions can also affect relationships because you're assuming that someone knows something or is going to do things a certain way or be a certain way, and then they're not, and then you're disappointed. And that's not fair to them because they can't read your mind about what you're assuming. An example for me happened earlier today. My husband and I, we are both working from home, and he had calls back to back for work. He had a break in between, and I was thinking that's going to be the time when I can record my video. So he was finished with his call. I knew he had a break, and so I was getting ready to do the video, and then he all of a sudden was on a personal call, and I was thinking, what? Wait a minute, you've just been on the phone. Why are you now on a personal call? This wasn't supposed to happen. And I was upset with him, and then realizing it's not fair to be upset with him for something that he didn't intentionally do to interrupt the plans that I hadn't even shared with him. It was my assumption telling me that I was going to have this window of time, and then I got irritated with him when that didn't turn out to be the case. So my learning from that is, okay, if I have a plan in my head, I need to tell him, hey, when you are done with your work call and you have this break, do you mind if I do my video recording? And then we're all on the same page. So consider that too, being fair to others when they act in a way that's different from what you're expecting because it's based on your assumption about how it's going to work out. I'd love to hear from you about assumptions that you make. Do you have a tendency to make assumptions? And from this video, what will you start doing differently when you're noticing that there's an assumption that's going through your head? And if you like this video, please click like, share, subscribe. Click the bell to be notified of upcoming videos. And for more about me, my website is coachlisha.com. Until next time, with more love from Lisha. Bye.